welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today we are visiting again with our Healthy Families consultant, Alvean Lyons, and we're going to talk about how to get your kids to be volunteers and how to impress the importance of that on them. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thanks.
You know, I was just hearing a report the other day about how this generation, the millennials, are more volunteer-oriented than, for example, my generation. And a lot of it's because it's required in schools. Schools now and colleges require volunteer activities.
Because one of the things that the research is also bearing out is that the more often you have people who are committing to serving in some greater way, the community as a whole benefits. And they recognize that it's with the whole notion of being global citizens, you know, the ideas really have to begin at very local levels. It's the thinking globally and acting locally concept. So schools implementing volunteer requirements is a byproduct of really trying to change the landscape in terms of global citizenship. So it really does make an enormous difference too. And a lot of times young adults find their purpose, their professional purposes, through a lot of those volunteer opportunities. So it's a fantastic thing, and it can change your life for the rest of your life when you get involved in something that you develop a real passion for.
Well, it is, and purpose is supposed to be, you know, one of the defining things of this generation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So instead of waiting until their high school or college requires volunteerism, we as parents can help them get involved a little sooner.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we want to talk about, that there are ways to be able to build those foundations so that when they do that at the collegiate level, this is just part of the culture for them, that this is very much a part of who they are. But that really begins with what we do at home. What that home experience really is the structure in which everything else is built on top of. So we want to focus on, you know, I always have a word.
Yes.
So we're going to pick a word, and the word is hand, with the notion of giving a helping hand, lending a hand to your community. And the four concepts that are a part of it are really things that are very easy to be able to teach at home if we're committed to the process.
Okay.
So we'll start with H. Helping has to be a family value. If we're trying to get our kids to do something that we don't make part of the foundation of our homes, if we don't make that part of the conversation in our homes, the likelihood of them really, you know, feeling some real connection to that thing is very unlikely. So we want to make sure that the conversation begins with us. What is it that we believe is important about volunteer work? What is it that we think that it adds as a person? The character building components that are involved with volunteer work. Those kinds of things have to come from us. And one of the nice things about volunteering is no matter where you are in terms of your life, whether you have a lot or you have a little, giving to others always makes us feel richer. Always. And it surprises people because people always think, well, I need somebody to give something to me because I have nothing, you know?
Right.
But that's actually not how it works psychologically. It's amazing how rich you feel when you have a chance to be able to do something for somebody who has less than you or has different challenges than you have. Because sometimes we don't even realize how many good things exist in our lives until we recognize that someone else doesn't even have those things.
Right. I mean, for kids maybe who are low income but are good in school or good at sports, they can mentor. There's so many programs now through a community center or through something else where you can mentor a younger child or read with a younger child.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, things that don't cost money but cost time.
And time is an incredible investment. And Volunteer Hampton Roads, for instance, is a great resource for you to be able to look at all kinds of volunteer opportunities in our local community. And we have a great community. We may not be perfect, but we have a really great community. So being able to be part of doing something here in your local area where you really feel a sense of connection to the people you live, work, and play with on a regular basis is an absolutely wonderful thing to do. But that really has to begin with us having conversations about those. Sometimes we don't know what to talk about as parents. You know, we sit down with our kids and other than how was your homework, how was your day, we run out of things to talk about. But when we start talking about, hey, let's get involved in something. What do you guys think about doing A, B, and C or making a difference in this kind of way? It opens up a whole new way to be able to connect with our kids. So we highly encourage getting involved with the community. But it starts with teaching helping as a family value.
Okay.
Then the second thing, A. You heard me mention sitting at the table having this conversation with your kids. Allow them to be part of the decision-making process. People need to have buy-in in a family, no matter what age you are.
Right.
And when your kids are young, that 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stage, they have so much opinion about so many things, and they even have little passions already. They see other little kids that are in need and they want to go help. The beautiful thing about young kids, they don't have a limit to how much they're able to be compassionate or loving for someone else. So they're even in the simple ways that I want to help so-and-so have a sandwich for school. I want to make sure that every kid my age has a toy to be able to play with. Those things can happen at such a young age, and they can be taught in fantastic ways. Healthy Families has an incredible program that they call 1, 2, 3 Magic. And they also have nurturing programs from ages 2 all the way up to 12 that all help to build that foundation of giving and connecting and building structure in a household. And adding the idea of volunteering as part of that structure is a fantastic thing to do. But we want to allow our kids to make some decisions where that's concerned.
We did that thing with my kids where whatever their allowance was, it was $1 a week or something, and 25 cents had to go into the donate pot, and then 25 cents went into saving, and 50 cents was, they could build it up and spend it or something like that. But the donate, they, waited until it accumulated, and then they got to decide where it went. And so we would go to the SPCA, or we would go to, because kids love animals when they were little.
Oh, totally.
Or if they were collecting for something at school, they were giving of their own money. Obviously, not everybody is able to give their kids allowance, but it was one of those things that helped them make those decisions too.
It's true, and then they feel a sense of power in all of that I get to choose, and what I feel is important. And kids are always looking for a voice. So when we give them a space that their voice is heard and that it makes a difference in the decisions that are made, kids are far less likely to be looking for those kinds of supports and affirmations outside of home because I'm getting that at home. So there's so many great things that can come out of doing something like that that build your kids and your family in ways we wouldn't even think about. One of them is the end that we're going to talk about, needs versus wants. In this super hyper materialistic environment that we're in, there is a new iPhone out. It feels like every Friday.
Right,
There's a new game available. There are the new sneakers. There's the new outfit. It's the new.
Quickly,
like everything is about the next thing that you need to purchase.
Teenagers have to eat out as a group all the time.
And it is part of, it's the marketing. That's what it's all about, to convince you that there's something you need that you don't already have, even though just yesterday you bought something new. And it gets into the psyche of our kids in lots of ways. But a lot of times it starts to get fuzzy. What's really a need versus what is a want? And when you start volunteering out in the community and you start helping other people who are in different situations than you are, if you're doing something for like the food bank, for instance, and you recognize that for these kids, all they want is to be able to have a warm meal every day, but you're thinking about a $600 iPhone that you just bought the other one a couple of months ago, it really starts to change perspective about what is really needed to survive and be happy versus what are just a whole bunch of wants that quite frankly are going to mean much of nothing over time. But when you give of yourself and you really begin to see the lives and experiences of other people, your character grows. And more than anything, I think every one of us parents would agree, we want our kids to be great people. So that doesn't just happen by accident. There are purposeful decisions that we make that create the atmospheres for those things to take place.
And those things, then kids understand the community, understand more about. I mean, it is a life lesson.
It's so true.
Teaching them the kind of things that's, not on the SOLs, but understanding, compassion, just realization of how other people live. So do I need to eat out with my friends and spend $20 when that $20 could feed somebody for a lot of meals?
It's true. And even a lot of times kids get excited about the idea that if we use the example of the eating out with your teenage friends on a regular basis, that, hey guys, what if all of us just don't eat out this week and we pool all of our money so that we can help 3 families in the community? What you feel like as a person when you know that your Chipotle money changed somebody's entire week? I mean, it just changes who you are. And those kinds of things make better people. So it's not just about having good kids, but ultimately our goal for raising good kids is one day they'll be great people. So it can all begin in very small ways by teaching very significant things, but we have to be serious about doing those things. And then finally, when we talk about D, do it together. We always need ways to connect better with our kids. You know, when we talk about the connecting with teens classes through healthy families, they're always reinforcing opportunities for families to be able to communicate with each other so that there are no barriers between us, so that the important things that are happening in our teenagers' lives, they feel comfortable talking to us about those things.
Well, if you experience that moment together, you're more likely to talk about it while
true.
you're in it and also later.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's great opportunity to talk about some of the things that you might not even have realized, or things that I never even addressed where my kids were concerned. I never thought about talking to them about how are you going to learn how to budget? You know, how are you going to choose between buying new clothes versus making sure that the rent or the lights are paid on time? Things that we just don't even think about sometimes as we're preparing to launch our teens into their young adult years. Who are they going to be independent of us? And sometimes those experiences doing other things for other people create the perfect opportunities to have those conversations that we might not have had.
Well, and practically speaking, doing it together helps. I mean, I know that before I had kids, I was a volunteer at the Battered Women's Shelter. So I did, 6-hour shifts in the house or on the phone. Well, I didn't want to do those after my kids came because I wanted to be home.
Right.
And so finding the volunteer things that you can do with your kids helps me,
Absolutely.
continue to do those things.
Absolutely.
Because, I gave up a whole lot of stuff I used to do when I became a parent. So
Lots of
it
mommies
reinforces
do.
it. And then the other thing is, it's a free family activity.
Exactly.
Sometimes,
Exactly.
going bowling with the family costs money, but going to sort cans at the food bank doesn't cost anything.
And creates way more joy than you would ever imagine. When you know and you look in the faces of other people and they are so grateful for what it is that you are offering into their world, it is so much more rewarding than most people would ever imagine. So make that part of the way that your family lives. Be a volunteer, add to your community.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to throw in a pitch for the food bank because they really do take volunteers.
Agreed.
A lot of different times. Can't be a little kid, but they do children if you come along. And I'm also going to say the Hampton Clean City Commission because it also isn't an ongoing commitment. So they do a cleanup, you go that day, you're done.
Absolutely.
And they do all kinds of different parts of town, all kinds of different things. Call and volunteer, set something up.
When our kids learn these kinds of things, they're far less likely to get involved in the negative behaviors that we're trying to avoid. When they feel a connection, a real meaningful connection to the community that they're in, they want to see that community be better. They're less likely to be part of a problem and far more likely to be part of a solution.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because that's something that hadn't really occurred to me. So I guess it's the same thing as sports, but if a child is involved in something positive and getting good feelings about that, they're not looking to drugs or alcohol or risky behaviors necessarily to fit in or to get that good feeling. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, because there is an affirmation and support and network that comes from being part of a team, no matter what kind of team that is, which is why we normally see better academic performance in kids that are involved in sports and band and so on and so forth. The same thing is true when it comes to positive activities that they feel connected to their local communities in. They don't feel invisible and they don't feel the need to try to get attention in negative ways because they're now able to get that same attention in very positive ways. So there are so many benefits that come from teaching our kids to get involved in good ways that make them fantastic human beings for the long term.
All right, I'm going to throw in one more benefit that just occurred to me because, as you know, my children have recently gone through the college application process. They look for kids that are involved in their communities. And it teaches you leadership. Because if you do a volunteer work over a period of time, you can frequently become a leader, more self-confident. You're starting things. You're starting positive things.
It's very true. And it's very helpful for them personally and for the people whose lives they touch. Totally agree.
Okay. So let's talk then, just as a quick hit, about we want our kids to be volunteers because we want them to be involved in positive things, not negative things.
Absolutely.
We want to give back to the community ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we want to pass along that lesson to them.
It's incredible character building.
So you're going to give us a helping hand acronym to help us remember how to do this.
Exactly. H, helping has to be a family value. So that only begins from us as parents leading the way on that and having active conversation with our kids about the process. A, allow them to make some decisions in it. What their passions are, what they're interested in, be it the SPCA or the food bank, whatever it is, we want to encourage them to be part of the solution also, no matter what age they are. So we need the buy-in from them. It makes a difference. Then N, it teaches important things like the difference between needs and wants. In a materialistic world, our kids have to be able to distinguish between the two. And when you're serving other people and learning about other lives, you begin to realize just how much you really need to be happy versus all those extra wants. And then finally, D, do it together. When we work together, we build lasting connections with our families. So we want to make sure that every opportunity we can, we are building stronger and stronger families.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Alvean, for that recap.
My pleasure.
And I hope you will use these tips to connect with either your child, your grandchild, or if you are the favorite auntie or uncle that does fun stuff with your nieces and nephew, think about doing fun stuff that also benefits the community. Thanks for watching.